Hello everyone, this is day 6 of Watches and Wonders. Time is ticking, so let's dive straight into the program. Welcome everyone to the morning show of Watches and Wonders. I'm Olivia Chang, and every morning I'll be taking you inside the wonderful world of watchmaking. Now we are nearing towards the end, but we still have lots more planned for the day ahead, so grab yourselves a cup of coffee or tea, make yourselves at home, and most importantly, enjoy the show. Let's kick off the day with a look at all the highlights and brand announcements from day 5 of the event.
At Watches and Wonders, some watchmakers have begun heralding the arrival of spring, but outdoors polar weather had returned to Geneva. Chapek, with its Antarctic watches, embraced visions of travel to some of the coldest places on this planet ahead of a blockchain launch.
When you start a company, it's really like going into an adventure. And with Adresta, creative on the blockchain, that was exactly the same spirit. It's a venture between us. It's an adventure of two companies who are going against the most difficult challenges they have to go together.
Someone who knows about adventure in the Earth's polar regions is Mike Horn. His travels to the Arctic offer us an insight to the passage of time and the impact of climate change.
I know the world has changed. I've seen polar bears drown. I've seen grizzly bears kill polar bears, and they never used to share the same space. I saw a lot of erosion in the permafrost. We've got to be able to go out and explore and bring those messages back and motivate the brands.
Having peaked 14 summits over 8,000 meters, this mountaineering star offered similar impressions.
I have seen the changes by my own eyes. All the glaciers have turned into lakes now. Some of the mountains where, we could be able to boil the snow, find the snow easily. Now we don't find snow at that altitude. It's quite upsetting to see that, and we must do something now. We must act now in order to, preserve all this stuff.
But like for other brands, a wave of action has begun. Montblanc partnered with Nimsdai on a new Everest challenge that will include a trash cleanup. And Panerai designed a timepiece using upcycled steel from Mike Horn's boat.
It's very logical to have a contact with Montblanc because we are climbers. Montblanc is obvious to have in your emotions, in your heart. And I did many climbs on Mont Blanc in young years before going to the Himalayas. So Mont Blanc became very important to me.
They have a huge legacy. Legendary Reinhold Messner was, with them. And now me carrying that legacy further and beyond is quite key.
Those legacies ring strong here as the time for sustainability has come.
Stay with us because in just a moment we're going to break this down even further for you. Now, I'm really delighted to welcome Sophie Foley, Editorial Director at World Tempest, to get your take on what we just saw. That was a recap from day 5. Lots to digest there. Your thoughts and impressions?
Oh, it's just been wonderful to see so many brands now taking sustainability seriously. I feel that the watch industry has maybe been a little bit behind other industries like the car industry and the fashion industry, but they're catching up fast. And it's really reassuring, I think, to see that.
So we are drawing to the end of the event. We're at day 6, and I just want to ask you, how could you even condense what you've seen and experienced over the past 5 days?
I think for me, it's been 2 things. It's been creativity. There have been so many wow moments. I think I've said like wow a trillion times already. There's so many new products, new ideas, new designs, innovation. For the longest time, we've had this vintage trend, which has been fabulous, but it's been looking back at the history of watchmaking, and now I feel we have a new chapter where we're sort of looking to the future, which is really exciting for me as a journalist.
I think wow and creativity are 2 words that we've been hearing constantly throughout the whole week. So what took you by surprise? Something that when you walked past, you said, that is unexpected.
I think, Cartier had like 1,000 wow moments. They've been really quite quiet the last 2 years, and when I saw them, I knew why, because they've just been creating. So yes, I think most of my wows were there, but I mean, there's a wow on every corner.
For everyone who's watching at home, maybe who cannot come in person, how would you best summarize the atmosphere that you have seen here?
I mean, I'm sure I'm saying the same as everybody else, but it's so nice to get together. I mean, before the pandemic, a lot of people were questioning whether the fair model was still actuality. You know, it was still modern, if we shouldn't be moving towards other forms of communication. And we found with the pandemic that we really miss seeing each other. And the magic only happens when we actually get together. And that has been proven today, all this week, you know, seeing people chatting and brainstorming. And it's just been fabulous. And
it's wonderful that we can have this in person and that we don't have to log off on our screens right after this. So, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for having me.
So stay with us, more to come, because we find out what makes CEOs tick. Time now to get a view from the very top, and I'm delighted to be joined by Wilhelm Schmidt, CEO of A. Lange und Söhne. After 2 years of going digital, we just spoke about this. What are your impressions of this year's watchmaking edition?
I think we heard the word magic a couple of times before. I mean, we had to go digital for the last two years, but there is no substitute for that moment when you unveil watches that you worked on for so long, and we usually do that without sharing our secrets. And that moment when journalists or clients for the very first time grab that watch and put it around the wrist and make it theirs, not that we give it away, but you know, that moment, I don't think you can ever manage to create that in the digital world.
So for you, that moment is priceless, really.
This one, and you know, a funny story, you cannot meet somebody accidentally in a Zoom meeting. But if you go just to the restroom or back to the hotel, you bump into so many people that you had no appointment with, and you connect or reconnect with them. I think that is the beauty of a fair.
And suddenly your calendar looks much fuller than you expected. Now let's talk about the company itself. As a relatively or comparatively small manufacturer, how do you deal with this increasing demand?
We can't very easy, because we have a product capacity about 5,500, and at the end we need skilled hands, gladly not those, you know, really good hands. And 500 people can produce 5,500 watches. We're not demand-driven. If we manage to get more talented people and train them up to the level that we can use them in our manufacturing, then we can increase. But other than that, you know, we have to deal with waiting lists and with expectations of our customers.
And I'm just going to touch on the talent very shortly, but to what extent do trends or have trends shaped and influenced the company overall?
Absolutely not. I know that sounds arrogant. It's not meant to be arrogant, but 5,500 watches, we have about 74 reference in our product portfolio, and we use about 39 different movements. They're all done in-house. You know, you're so busy with your own stuff, you don't really follow trends with 5,500 watches.
So if not trends, what drives it internally then? Paint us a picture there.
We always have a theme which helps us to structure all activities through a year. And this year it's devotion to the highest standards, and it's our own standards. And 3 watches that we launched, they were perfect illustration of what we mean. You know, you always take something and bring it to another level. Sometimes I have to admit it can drive you nuts, because whenever we have a solution, that's just the beginning of my team to come up with something even better. But eventually there is that fear and you have to be ready. So that also is a challenge in itself.
So you're always putting them up to a new challenge, let's say.
Well, they do it themselves, which is, you know, you just have to manage the process.
Well, that helps to have that. And finally, coming back to this topic of talent, what role does the promotion of young talent play for the company?
I always say it's the biggest expense I have in my books, because we operate our own watchmaker school, and it's actually the 25th anniversary this year. We usually have, for each year, and it's a 3-year apprenticeship training, we have between 12 and 18 young talents. It takes 3 years for them to become watchmaker, and then another year or 2 before they really can contribute to the manufactory. That's the only way for us to grow, but also the only way how to maintain that in 20 years from now on, somebody is still be able to service and repair our watches.
So anything special planned for the 25th anniversary?
Of course, yes, which we don't unveil today.
Okay, well, we have to stick around. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
us.
Lydia. Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Likewise.
Take care.
Thank you.
Not wasting any time, because now we are joined by David Cho, CEO of Baume & Mercier. Thank you so much and good morning.
My pleasure. Good morning, Olivia. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you so much. Now, Baume & Mercier has spent the past 2 years repositioning and renewing itself. Describe to us this transition and what it has been like.
I think Baume & Mercier has been transforming since the last nearly 2 centuries. The Maison has been founded in 1830, so it has been a long, long transformation. But you're right, over the last 3 years even, we have reinstilled strong roots of Baume & Mercier, being in the DNA of the Maison, creativity, innovation, and innovation not only for innovation, but for the use of a client, for their benefits. So it's moved from design, creativity highlighted, as well as watchmaking innovation with a baumatic movement that you can see in most complicated timepieces.
I know it's hard to digest 2 centuries. We cannot do that in 5 minutes.
Yes, it could be quite difficult, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about where the Maison stands today. What does the revitalized approach to watchmaking look like?
It went through Riviera. In fact, it has been an icon that has been launched in 1973 at Baume & Mercier with this innovative dodecagonal shape. It had evolution over the years. It is the 5th version that we have launched last year. It's already a hit in the market. People are shading this timepiece. And today we are even us facing a huge event. We have to increase the production, definitely wider than A. Lange & Söhne, but Baume & Mercier is as well moving up to more demand, especially on Riviera Baumatic, that I think you will have the luck to discover in a few minutes afterward.
How critical do you see this know-how in unique shapes for Baume & Mercier going forward?
Yeah, shapes has already been in the history of Baume & Mercier, while innovative timepieces from the even from the 1920s and so on, through Art Deco design, through innovation for ladies' timepieces, and then shapes appears. I think we are time shaper at Baume & Mercier, with circles for sure with Classima and Clifton, then rectangular with Hampton, and now since the last years, the dodecagon with Riviera we launched that will celebrate his 50th birthday next year.
Since you just mentioned that, can we get your take on which shape attracts you specifically?
This is the dodecagon for sure. The dodecagon shape, yeah, I felt in love with Riviera since day one when I saw the creation of Baume & Mercier, and I said, okay, we have to do it nice and well for the future.
So there's also a strong history of creative collaborations within the Maison. How do you choose which realms you venture into?
Baume & Mercier has always been based on a collaborative approach. It's a collective around Baume & Mercier, first of all for creativity creation, but as well as for distribution. We are leveraging on all our partners and partnering a lot worldwide. And then our most, I would say most notable collaboration was the one we just launched in February. It's an homage to Pierre Soulages, a famous French painter legend, I would say, that turned 102 years old last December. And we designed a piece together, we created a piece together, the Hampton homage à Pierre Soulages, that is a limited edition to 102 pieces, and that has been sold in a few hours mid-February. So
a lot of people here, they can obviously catch the novelties at your booth, but for everyone tuning in, what else can we expect from Baume & Mercier later this year?
So not a booth, the Riviera World, I will call it like this, not a booth for Baume & Mercier. For the coming years, more innovation, more collaboration, and quite a lot of surprise to come in the coming years for Baume & Mercier.
So everything that you've been doing well, with a touch of surprise there.
Exactly, exactly.
So we'll have to keep our eyes out for that. Thank you so much for joining us this breakfast morning.
Thank you.
We're coming now to our final CEO interview of the day with Nicola Andrea, CEO of Roger Dubuis. So the company has a very distinct positioning. Explain to us what you mean by hyper-horology and how this drives your avant-garde pieces.
Well, good morning, Olivia. First, thanks for having us today. I have to say that for the past 25 years, 27 years actually, from our early days, our obsession has been that of creating and inventing the future of haute horlogerie. And for Roger Dubuis, at Roger Dubuis, that means infusing a bit more expressivity and a contemporary touch to haute horlogerie, to the tradition of watchmaking, which carries on since more than hundreds of years, I would say. And so for us, this is always the way we do things. At the end, hyper is a prefix that comes from Greek and stands for excessive. It illustrates this idea of going beyond. And for us, we want always to be superlative in what we do, and so we evolve the watchmaking world towards our hyper horology.
So you always want to make a statement?
Absolutely. For us, every single thing we do is a statement and shows our prowess, but also this dynamic, this idea of always exceeding the limits and pushing the boundaries of watchmaking.
So when I look at the company, there's motorsport, there's urban art. Tell us how you select the brand territories that you go into.
Well, at Roger Dubuis, everything is about emotions, and there are different ways to convey emotions. For us, one of the ways is that of connecting with excellencies within other industries or other worlds, which express the same values and which go along the same way of connecting to their clientele. So in the last few years, we've been starting to, as you said, we have two territories of expression. The first one is linked to very strong emotions. We call it the adrenaline factor, and it connects us to the motorsport world. Lamborghini and Pirelli as our main partners, and it has been so since a few years, and it's going to be a long-term relationship and collaboration. On the other side, it's still emotions, still strong emotions, but it's about perspectives. It's about finding inspirations from artists, contemporary artists in particular, who are part of this collective that we call the Urban Tribe. We started 1 year ago with Brian Wu, Dr. Wu, better known as Dr. Wu, probably the best tattoo artist in the world. We continued with Gulli, a French graffiti artist, and this is just the beginning. We have a lineup of friends who are going to express themselves interpreting Roger Dubuis and our icons for potentially the next few years.
Sounds like you have your hands full there. Now, I'd love to get your take on your omni-channel approach. How is that developing? What could that look like?
Well, omni-channel is just about being present in every channel. That's the way. That's the way you can explain the word. That said, at Roger Dubuis, that means to be able to connect with our clientele in every possible way. Clearly, the digital acceleration we have experienced in the last few years forced us to be present on every kind of digital channel. What's more important for us is to make sure that we show consistency within all our touch points to our clientele, making sure that they find exactly the same experience and they experience the brand in the same way, be it through our physical locations, our boutiques, or through the digital channels that we exploit and operate.
So paint us a picture for someone who might already be a Roger Dubuis customer or prospective customer. What kind of experience can they envision for themselves in the future?
Thanks for the question, because at Roger Dubuis, the experiential side is a key part of what we do. We like to live life together with our clients, with our friends, and once again, we go to this hyper world together. Hyper is a word that constantly comes back at Roger Dubuis. Recently, we invented what we call the hyper-connoisseur moment. So what we do is to discover, as I said, little excellencies in the world of luxury and play together with them to bring incredible moments to our clientele. An example could be what we have been doing in the past few days here in Watches and Wonders in our booth with our clientele, where we started discovering and testing caviar, new cognacs, and everything done always with this little touch of Roger Dubuis.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this early morning, and I hope you have a hyper time for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Liva. Same to you.
Thank you. Well, for everyone who's tuning in, you know what time it is. It's time for Timepiece Talk, where we get up close and personal with the watches. And of course, delighted to welcome our regular faces, Gianfranco Riccio, Joanna Lange, Carson Chan. Thank you all so much for joining us here today and having wonderful discussion on our watches for the day. So let's jump right into it. I think, Joanna, you're going to have the honors of taking the first watch from A. Lange & Söhne. Und ich würde vorschlagen, dass wir das auf Deutsch machen, oder?
Finde ich super. Also das ist die große Lange 1, die hat einen Durchmesser von 42 Millimeter.
Wait. First, Gianfranco, now you. What's going on? We might as well 我哋不如講廣東
好啊，
話算啦。
你想講廣東話都可以。
Oh, ma cosa succede? Oh, calma.
Okay, guys, let's come back to the real discussion here. Watches, okay?
I think so.
Okay, I'll save the German lesson for later as well, you guys. You're not getting off this.
Yeah.
So this is the Grand Lange 1 in 42 millimeter. It has a height of just 8.2 millimeters. So this is actually a difference of 0.6 millimeter from the previous model, which you may think 0.6 millimeter, that's hardly anything at all. But don't say that to a watchmaker because it makes a huge difference. But not only that, it makes a huge difference on the wrist when you're wearing it. And they have really achieved this by very fine details. It's all in the detail with Lange. They have reduced the size by half of the R indices and the hands. They have even slightly changed the height of the sapphire crystal and the bezel on the case. So all with these little reworking of details, not touching the movement, they have really achieved this new, beautiful proportions for the Grand Lange 1.
That's right. I think proportion is everything. Even though if it's just a half a millimeter, you really have to have the watch on the wrist to appreciate it. Now, for those who are familiar with the Lange 1, once you put it on the wrist, you will see how well it sits. I encourage everybody to go try it.
And don't forget to describe the beauty of the watch and his dial, because you have this kind of off-center dials with this big date function. Let me turn it on jumping on 31st, which is inspired by the opera in Dresden with this big 5-minute indication. And they launched it at the first for a wristwatch.
Exactly, yes. And this decentralized dial as well, it's very iconic for the Lange 1 with the power reserve, 72 hours, just with one single barrel. And if we take a look, perhaps, Gianfranco, you can turn the watch around. Of course, the beauty of the movements, the 3/4 plate, which is a real style from 1864, actually, when Ferdinand Adolf Lange really brought this for stabilization on the movements. And look at that balance cock, which is hand engraved. So each one is like one of a kind.
Now, Joanna, I know you can talk at length about this model, but because time is ticking, we have to move on to the next one. And I'd love you to take on and introduce the one from Angelus for us.
Sure, pleasure. So this is the Angelus chrono date. And as the date suggests, it is a chronograph and a date.
Yes, first when I saw the name, I was thinking, is it a chrono or is it a date?
Okay.
But I guess it's a combination.
So it's
of both.
actually both in combination, and this is inspired from a chrono model from Angelus in 1942. So where they were pioneers in chronograph movement and design. And the design is very fitting from the original model. We see these two very large subdials for the running seconds and the 30-minute counter, and this is very true to the original model back then in 1942. And look at the date, so that's the other feature of this model, as it goes around the peripheral of the dial. So this is really a smart way to show in a very precise, with the red arrow, the date as an added complication to the chronograph.
To the chronograph, which, by the way, even me, after a long party then on Sunday morning, can activate it, because if you have a closer look, it's even written on the pusher, start, stop, and reset. Easy to use.
Now, only 25 pieces on each version is available, so if you like this watch, you better hurry up.
And look at the side of the case. It has this carbon composite container, which is actually holding the movement. And this is also seen on the lugs and the pushers. And the case architecture is really interesting. So it's built up with these 9 parts, very unique and beautiful touch to this chronograph.
Sandwich construction.
So Gianfranco, I'm now going to move on to you, and I'd like you to take us to the French Riviera, if you may.
Absolutely. We go from the Geneva beach to another country in the French Riviera, in fact, which allows me to describe this beautiful sport chic stainless steel watch here called Riviera. And the typical signature is the dodecagonal bezel. Dodecagonal. Did you hear it correctly?
What does that mean?
It means 12 facets.
Wow.
Highlighted by these 4 bolts on the bezel and the octagonal crown shape. So you see a lot of facets, edges, but all together gives kind of sport chic watch. And if you have I don't know if you see something through the sapphire dial.
That has a beautiful, this piece, I know. This has a beautiful smoky gray dial where you can really have that glimpse. It's really inviting you to want to find out more about the movement, and the movement really is worth finding out more about because it's the Bowmatic movement that gives a power reserve for 5 days. So this is great. You can leave it on at home if you're not using it for a while and pick it up a few days later. It's still running perfectly, and actually the preciseness of this watch is also quite
it's
amazing,
-4 to +6 seconds. So it's
the level of certification COSC, the chronometer certification, right?
Absolutely.
And even more resistant against magnetic fields, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, even it is amagnetic to 1500 Gauss. So, you know, it's really well protected. Absolutely a watch that you should wear to the Riviera vacation.
And I can change the bracelet easily to change my look every day when I'm in holidays.
So we've been to the French Riviera. I think now we're going to travel to the Antarctic. Tell us about Czapek and Company's model.
Yes, the Czapek Antarctic monopusher split rattrapante. Did you do your homework with this crazy word, rattrapante?
Gianfranco taught me how to say this word, rattrapant. Am I correct? Did I get an A?
Better and better.
Gianfranco is always putting Carson on the spot.
Yeah, he is. He loves to do that. But let me try and show my French teacher my understanding of this word. So rattrapant it means catch up. Now previously we were talking about another function, but this one that Gianfranco has in his hand is a split seconds chronograph. So what is a split seconds chronograph? It's a chronograph that can simultaneously time 2 events at the same time. So acts as if you have actually 2 chronographs in your hand, so you can time 2 things at the same time. This is a watch like that. Now, why is the name Antarctic, Joanna?
So Antarctic, I love this because on the dial you have these see-through icy blue sapphire rings that are really highlighting the chronograph function. So we have the running seconds, the minute counter, and this beautiful peripheral icy sapphire blue that's counting, really tracking the chronoseconds as it travels really around the dial.
Now you see the biggest part of the component of these nearly 300 components are visible on the front with the 2 column wheels, but you also have on the back side one big self-winding mechanism with a visible rotor made in recycled golds.
The case is made in stainless steel in 42.5 millimeter. And as Joanna and Gianfranco explained, I love the way how the dial is clear. There's no dial, it's an open work. You can completely see the mechanism inside, and for a watch lover, it's the best feature on the watch.
And this also has an easy release system.
Yes,
so imagine
absolutely.
this watch, I mean, we can wear it, when we're traveling, wherever it may take us, but also we can have a completely different look by changing the bracelet.
Versatility, it's keyword.
Great.
Yes.
So with the next model, I think, Gianfranco, why don't you just hold it up for our audience to see first, let them take a closer look. And Carson, I think I need your help here. Just tell us, what are we looking at here? Tell us about the construction.
What we have here is the Rebellion timepiece, Weep 1. This is a very, now if you want to have a watch that doesn't look like a conventional watch, this is the piece to go for. Can you imagine you have this on your wrist? I imagine when I fly back to Hong Kong, I'm going to have some trouble going through the airport security. Now, Gianfranco, you have it in your hands. This is, I understand it's a biaxial flying tourbillon. How do you tell time with this?
Easy. First of all, time is not a priority on this kind of weapon, no, a kind of timekeeper. As we highlighted here, in this sapphire cylinder, the most important part of the mechanical movement, it means the beating balance wheel. And this double balance wheel has a tourbillon, of course, flying tourbillon, turns in one sense and at the same time on a second axe on it. And the time, the time, it's easy to read. You just read it from the sides. You have here the hours on the left side, and on the right side you have the minutes, and it shows you it's 7:20. And if you want to wind the watch, you turn this cylinder here to wind the mechanism, and to set the time, you will turn this part here to set the time.
I love the sporty look of this. I mean, with the titanium, the black DLC, the tribute sort of to the car tire, you can really get into the engine feeling of this watch on your wrist.
For those of you who have not visited, who are at the fair and not visited Rebellion Timepiece booth, check it out. They have a race car there, and all the products are very much racing inspired.
By the way, you're speaking about engines and cars. I didn't tell you where is the movement in this watch here. You cannot see it. And in fact, the movement, it's hidden in this two-cylinder here, left and right.
Wow.
And that's the magical construction, just to let beat the double axis flying tourbillon.
Let's not forget, only 10 lucky people will be able to sport this on their wrist.
I think what we're taking away here is this one is definitely a conversation starter. Let's put it that way. And now we come to our very final watch that we're going to be taking a look at. It's going to be from Roger Dubuis. Carson, you have the honors. It's a final piece, so take it away.
You heard the CEO said, hyperhorology. Let me show you what hyperhorology is, right? Gianfranco, in his hand is the Hojo Dubuis Excalibur Mono Balancier Eon Go. Now, first, let's focus on the material, Eon Go. Eon in Greek means eternity. So gold is eternity gold. What does that mean? How do you produce a material that lasts for eternity?
Gold is eternal, but as you do pink gold, you combine other metals, and they can change a little bit the color through time. And they combine it with a little palladium to stabilize the color on long-term base.
On the dial, you can see, before we go into the dial, let's look at the case. If you look at the bezel, and the lugs, these are very, very signature, iconic feature of a Hojo Dubuis. You wear this watch, you could be 10 meters away and you know this is a Hojo Dubuis. Now, going into the movement, you will see very, very interesting layout of the construction of the movement. You can see, if you look carefully, you find a star. And if you see the back, there is also a star. Now, but I think Joanna is very, you can spot all the details.
So I love all the modern architecture, the really modern skeletonization, which Roger Dubuis do best. And even with the skeletonization bridge, like you say, the star-shaped bridge on the front. Also, we have this micro rotor, which is going through the movement in tungsten. So this is, again, not adding a layer on top of the movement, but really integrated into this beautiful architecture.
Yes. Tungsten and gold to add a little bit of precious spirit on the rotor even.
Yes. The finishing is very, very fine. Gianfranco, tell me about how well do they finish it? You have it in your hand.
I see it better, in fact. And the finishes are done really on the highest level you can do. It's even recognized and approved by the Poinçon de Genève, which is the highest level of criteria in quality and finishes in mechanical movement. And you can even see the Poinçon in the movement here, which, by the way, it's only done by even less than 5 brands does this kind of high-level finish in the Swiss watchmaking industry.
Us also this 72-hour power reserve, and the quick release system means that you can have one look for the weekend, and then on Monday morning the watch is still running, you change your strap and you're ready for the business week.
Now, that's all the time that we have for. We've been talking at length about all the watches, and we would like to welcome you back tomorrow because we're going to take a look at all the trends that will define 2022. So thank you so much to all our experts. Thank you so much. And we'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. So stay with us, more to come, because we take you inside Watches and Wonders at Palexpo here in Geneva. Now, throughout the week, we have been showing you a different corner of Watches and Wonders here at the Salon here in Geneva. And Tanya Koenig joins us now live, and she's taking us to another popular section of the event.
Good morning, Olivia, and I'm back with another inside look into Watches and Wonders. This time I'm at Time Design, which is a curated corner by Watches and Culture, which is a division by the Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie. And I'm joined by Emmanuel Schneider, who is one of the responsibles for this exhibition, together with Maud Felle-Zimmermann. Good morning, Emmanuel. So tell me, what can we see here?
So good morning, Tanya. With Maud, we've built this exhibition to illustrate the diversity of watches from being worn as brooch or pendant to a wristwatch.
That sounds great. So I would like to see some. Can we?
Yeah, sure. Come on. So this showcase illustrates the diversity of shapes in the wristwatch from early 20th century till today. So you can see rectangular shape, square, asymmetrical, or even shape you can't define, like this watch.
Like this one here. This you can definitely not define. Now, Emmanuel, what do we have in the back there?
So follow me and I'll show you one of my favorite showcases.
Favorite showcases, that sounds good. Here we go.
So in this showcase, you can see some of the craziest design of the 21st century. They are leading the way to the future.
Okay, crazy. Let me take a look. Yeah, I can see why you're saying crazy, because look at this watch. It got 4 dials. Now, Emmanuel, why? What are these 4 dials for?
Well, good spotting, Tanya. So the upper dial is for the hour and minute, and the 3 other dials allow you to see the precise day, date of the week, and months till the end of the century.
Wow, that's incredible. Until the end of the century. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. This is a watch for a lifetime or even more. Now, when thinking about design, we cannot go without mentioning artist Gerard Genta. He was responsible and designed some of the best-selling watches in the world. Now, we can see a fraction of his work here in this exhibition, but what I want to show you are actually these drawers in the back, because I'm sure you haven't seen these. Let's take a sneak peek. Here you can see some hand-painted designs by Gerard Genta in their original size. As you can see, you cannot really define, is it a watch, is it jewelry, or is it actually both in one, I would say. So as you can see, there's lots to explore in this small corner here. So if you're in Geneva still, then make sure to pass by Time Design. If you're not here in the city, but soon, this exhibition will travel to Pont de la Machine in the heart of Geneva from the 14th of April till the 8th of May. That being said, I'm going to use my time to look through these drawers. So Olivia, with that, back to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for really giving us a sneak peek and a behind-the-scenes look at Watches and Wonders. Now, coming right up, we bring you the panel discussion of the day. As we all know, the Fondation has been hosting panel discussions every single day at 1 p.m. here in the studio. And I'm now joined by Pascal Ravsoud, who's been overseeing that from the Fondation, to get his taste of the conversations that we've been having. Yesterday's topic was digitalization. How did you condense that in 1 hour?
Yes, so ni hao, Olivia. So no language lessons yesterday in the panel, unlike today in the morning show. So digitalization, obviously, the effect was a reduction of the travel for business. It was particularly obvious during the pandemic, but of course it will change our habits forever. So the impact is a very positive one in terms of environmental impact. It also brought customers closer to the brands, or brands closer to their customers than ever. So it's a very interesting aspect of digitalization. Of course, we have also to be conscious of the possible impact in the future. So I think it's finding the right balance is the key. But of course, we can use the best of both worlds. So digital is definitely going to be the word.
So today's discussion is going to be focused on evolving customer expectations. What are we evolving from? What are we evolving to?
Well, actually, of course, we're speaking about sustainability, and this aspect is very important because we are in a changing world, definitely. Everybody says it. I think 2022 is really the consciousness of this. Is there a pattern in terms of demographics in the clients? So there's going to be discussed today. Is there a discrepancy between what the people say they care about and what they actually do? And so we'll have different generations, and so we'll have an interesting discussion.
Pascal, you are a watch lover, a watch insider yourself. As a customer, what are you hoping or expecting?
I'm definitely hoping and expecting to have the consciousness that things are going to change, that we like it or not. We are in a world that's changing. It has to evolve because the urgency is there. And I probably say it every day, the time is now, and 2030 is tomorrow. And so I think we witnessed that during the last few days, that the brands are actually embracing this change, and we want to see concrete actions.
So in the spirit of the watch fair, time is ticking, and time is of the essence.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. That's your morning news wrap-up of day 6 of Watches and Wonders. There's still more to come, so check out all the coverage on all the platforms. And remember, we do have our late show. That's at 6:30 with Ariana Corta, where she brings you all the highlights of the day. We'll be back here, same place, same time. Good morning and take care.